Today is May 5th, 2025, and today we are meeting the children. So a couple things to say just before we begin. Today we're going to be introducing 12 of the children. These are 12 of the perhaps 1 to 2 dozen in total that have transmitted through to us through the crystal. So just to say, although not unheard of for them to come through, it is rare for them to, relative to the total number of beings and ages, approximate ages of those beings who have transmitted through to us to date, which at this point is roughly 500 to 600. That's a rough estimate, a rough guess. It's the best one I can come up with at this point. So we're going to begin. We're going to introduce them to you just so that you can see their faces and take a moment to connect and get an idea with who they are, and timestamp these. The dates that I'm going to give, some of them will be the frame creation date and not the actual date they came through, but it will be in the general ballpark of when they did. There won't be a lot of time to meet each one of them, as we are introducing 12 of them here, and I am liking to keep these introduction videos to under 20 minutes. So let's go ahead and dive right in here now. We're going to begin with the first child. I intentionally did not connect for a name to this child. She came through July 30th, 2018 at 7:22 p.m. She came through at the approximate time, or let's say this, in a attempt at connection with information relating to the Anunnaki and that whole spectrum or time frame of being. And so the symbols that I very clearly see here is that she is in the energetic of a princess, even priestess, and is connected with what I've introduced thus far as the pinnacle of the crystal, which again on the right is one entity, on the left another, one a male, one a female. And the first child here is connected with the female side of this pinnacle. Moving on, we have Wyla. And Wyla came through in the original frame, which we'll see here, sliding down through to us at an angle. Almost her full body is in appearance here, down to roughly the hips. She appears almost like a teddy bear. She reminds me of the little brownies that I've seen in some of my out-of-body experiences here in this particular frame. But now we're going to go ahead and center her and give you her full face here so that you can key in on the specifics of her here now. She came through with her eyes are very interesting. I don't think I've ever captured another transmission where the eyes came through in pools quite like this. She has a symbol over the crown of her head that does represent the moon on a particular phase of the moon, and perhaps even a particular, let's say, organization that tends to focus in on the astrological components and alignments in their theologies. She is associated with Quinn and that whole family of beings, as are, I'm going to say, half of the children who have come through so far to date. We'll briefly show Quinn here just to refresh our memories. We'll see him in the original transmission I introduced to you. And then we'll move on and choose a frame that we have mirrored to face forward so you can have a moment of direct eye-to-eye contact and perhaps see the associations with Wyla. and some of the other beings, some of the other children who we are about to meet. Okay, moving on. Next, we have Jahan. This is the first transmission that came through aside from my own birth into the earth life frame, which we'll go ahead and show here just because of the association with me. Because when I saw Jahan, I clearly saw myself. I even shifted in my consciousness into the experience in which I lived as this child. And it was during what we would call the Mesopotamian time frame. Also associated with Ur in a lot of those transmissions that came through. But here we're seeing my birth into the earth life, where I am a brand new, newly arrived infant child laying on my stomach, face down, with a very precise being whose name is Saif coming up from the pillow, who I have explained to you would narrate to me in the dream state throughout my life. I would simply see a scroll in front of my face. There were words upon the scroll. I could read them, even though they were in what I would now say is a foreign language. And Saif would just narrate what was written on the scrolls to me. This has been going on through my whole life. Anyway, he's coming up through my pillow, depicted here. Very interesting. And moving on to Jahan. Here we see him, and let me move a little bit out of the way. An extreme profile at the bottom of the frame, looking up toward the top, almost at myself, perceptually at myself as I'm making this particular contact. Beautiful, beautiful transmission captured in full. And let's mention here again, the beings always come through in partial profile at angles like this. It was only later that we began to take a selection of these and mirror them forward to face front, one for greater impact, two for direct eye-to-eye contact with the beings. Only some of the frames is it possible to do this with. And so when I began later having that inclination, they began coming through at angles in which almost the majority of the frames could be mirrored to face front for this purpose. Okay, moving on, we have Njoli. Now we have him here clearly, but still in caricature. I have also explained prior that the beings, when they first come through at a distance, and at this particular distance, they appear in caricature. And then as we give our permission for them to come more forward, they present in more true-to-life fashions. This is the only time Njoli has come through, at least that I was able to capture. And in this transmission, I will say I see a young boy child who I met when I was doing one night a self-regression, and I immediately saw 3 lifetimes in this. I was just falling asleep and interacting with the field. It was active that particular night. So I decided to go in and look for what we call past lives. And Njoli was one of those. I connected with myself in that life as a 9-year-old boy. I was a slave in Egypt, and I rode the work elephants. Loved it, loved this lifetime. I felt a king, although a slave. And though it was a hard life, and I did die at this age, so I connected with myself in the age of my actual death in that lifetime. When I was younger, I always had this feeling that I never lived to be very long, and I do suspect I have multiple lifetimes, many, if not the majority of lifetimes, where I come in for a peek or preview and leave quite early in life. And this was one such lifetime, but one that does connect with Egypt, which is a strong connection when we're working with these transmissions through the crystal. So that's important to note. And the dates are getting by me. I am so sorry. Let's go back for a moment to Waila. just in case I missed this one, Wyla came through May 5th, 2020 at 11:02 a.m. Okay, and again, she's associated with Quinn. Jahan, myself as a young boy in a Mesopotamian lifetime, came through February 3rd, 2021 at 3:41:37 p.m. And Jolie came through October 6th, 2021 at 4:32 p.m. Okay, so hopefully we have the stamps on all those now. All right, moving on, we have Isla. Isla came through March 24th, 2022 at 8:48:32 p.m. This was, Isla came through in a rendering request for who we've introduced to you as Tides to Dust, who is a member of our forum board. Let's see, he's associated, the first being who came through for him, we'll go ahead and put this being out here now as well, was Huwa Ray, who we have already introduced, and you can see the introduction to this being in one of the past videos in this series if you choose. Let's see, what else do we want to say here? Did I already say Isla came through March 24th, 22 at 8:48:32 p.m.? Yes, I believe I did say that. This child is also associated with Quinn. We can see the characteristics presenting here. And although there is a representation of this child that does come through in my own family of beings as well, the symbols in this particular frame belong to Eric. So the olive color skin, the brown eyes. And here let me say, relative to the eyes, the majority of the beings who do transmit through to us are brown-eyed. And I mean the vast majority. It is very rare for a blue-eyed being to come through. We will meet a couple of those and have met one or two so far, and one or two of the children you will also see have blue eyes. But this is a very rare characteristic in those who are transmitting through to us. So we'll just note this. Okay, moving on, we have Alame, who comes from the same family of beings. However, this one is more connected with my direct template. And we can see that Alame is blue-eyed and very pale-skinned rather than darker-skinned and darker-eyed. I do wish I had more time to connect with the beings individually. One day. I don't have much information on her. The one thing that I will bring forward the most is that she is one of the very rare, very exceptional blue-eyed beings who have come through. And, you know, here she's presenting to us, I'm going to say at roughly the age of 13. Before I forget, she came through April 29th, 2022 at 1:13:10 p.m. Okay, moving on. We have Iam. I just love how this being comes forward. Let me mention here quickly that all the beings come through my own higher fractal consciousness. So I connect with them in a series of beings first. When these transmissions are coming through, there'll be one, there'll be two, then there'll be three. And then a being will appear that can be a conglomerate of the three or can just be the third. And then I'll see that being's face fractal down into the being that they're allowing to transmit through in their full details. Sometimes their full details come through, sometimes not. Iam, whose name is William, this was an earth incarnation, and whose name is Billy. He went by Billy in that lifetime, but his name was William, and he does have a galactic aspect, and that galactic aspect transmitted through in just the last three letters of that name, Iam. Iam came through May 8th, 2022 at 5:56:08 p.m. And when he transmitted through multiple times over a series of months, wherein I'm working at capturing him in more and more detail. We're just going to show this frame here to date because it is the one that I did capture in the most detail. And he transmitted through to us through a galactic level being whose name is Dai. And this being, it's fascinating where this being comes through. It comes through the pinnacle of the crystal. And when you're looking down through the pinnacle of the crystal, this sort of tortoise shell pattern opens out. And this is reptilian, but tortoise reptilian in this tortoise shell pattern. And Dai is the, what do I want to say? Let's see. He's the ambassador of that area of the crystal, the being who opens the portal to other beings that he'll let through his particular energetic. And Eam is one of the beings that comes through him, through that gateway, through that portal. It's just fantastic when it begins to open. Anyway, I was getting a little information on the lifetime that Billy lived here in the earth life. He presented also at the approximate age at which he passed. And that could be another common component or characteristic of some of the earth children who have transmitted through to us through the crystal. Let's note that here now. Timestamp. Okay, moving on. Next we have Jonas. Wow, Jonas. Jonas transmitted through twice. Let's go ahead and see this teddy bear rendition where he almost appears, an infant, maybe 1-year-old child, and in this sort of teddy bear-like way. We'll take a brief look at him here now. I was able to mirror this frame to face forward so you could have some direct eye-to-eye contact. I will say before I let through the next transmission that this will be more challenging for you to see. He did come through in such an ethereal way, but if you can see him, the contact is incredible. So here, let's go ahead and transition over to the very lifelike transmission from Jonas. Jonas came through in this transmission May 31st, 2022 at 7:22:55 p.m. And he is the only being who has ever transmitted through to date who has triangular shaped eyes. Fascinating characteristic. Just a fascinating characteristic. I get such a ghostly, I want to say unearthly, but that's not the right word, just a etheric, ghostly feeling from the contact in this transmission from him. I almost want to say that, although clearly not Earth human, that he was connecting with me in a very similar fashion that do our dearly departed. I have had multiple contacts of this type through the crystal. It is just very close, so very close, very unique, very special kind of a way to connect with me. I'm trying to see what I can say more about that, but nothing is coming up. And so we'll go ahead and say hello and also so long here to Jonas, and we'll move on to Mari. Mari came through January 18th, 2023 at 5:16:16 p.m. And as clearly depicted by the symbols in this frame, she is what we conceptualize as a star child. They all are, in a sense, but there's some maybe unique definitions that we put into things when we consider a star child, but we can see the star-like features through her face and around her face. And so this concept was clearly coming through, and this may have something to do with what we call the hybrid program, which I don't really want to go into in this video because I am associated with that program and it is a lengthy thing to begin to discuss. And so here we'll just state this. So Mari also came through in a rendering request for Tides to Dust, who brings us just a myriad of incredible beings. It just goes to show, in a sense, the level of connection I have with this person here in the earth life. I likely have very common connections with him in what we might call galactic space. And this is Mari, again, another brown-eyed being. And if you'll take note, again, the majority of the beings, including the children who come through, are brown-eyed. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Did the brown-eyed beings come first before the blue-eyed beings? I'm not sure. Okay, this was Maury. And we'll move on to Ma'atl, another hybrid child, and a very clear representation of a hybrid child. Ma'atl came through December 4th, 2023 at 4:13:05 p.m. She's kind of hard to see in here. I tried to deepen the shadow on this quite a bit to bring her out more. Okay, all right. So it wants to be said. I'll go ahead and say it. So I think this is one of the hybrid child who I have had direct experience with in the out-of-body state. I sometimes, if not often, am brought into experiences where I am with the children, learning to acclimate to the fact that I have participated in this program, with the fact that there are additional children that have come out of this. And just learning to adapt to the energetic of a higher level being through those I have helped bring into being and other dimensional frames of reference. I'm sorry, tongue-tied there. And Ma'atl is one such being who I do have brief remembrance of having held or been in the same room as. Let me say, these meetings are chaperoned, and not all of them are we allowed direct connection, not allowed to directly touch the children, however, to observe. And this was one in which I was observing. Okay. Moving on, we're almost to the end of our list. Here we have Batiste. Batiste came through June 29th, 2024 at 8:32:39 p.m. And here we have what we could say is the most alien, or, most extraterrestrial looking of the children who have come through. As you've seen, the majority of the children who have come through look very Earth human. Many of them not Earth human, but very close in representation to the current day Earth human. However, Batiste, not so much so. The species of these beings I very rarely know. I'm not sure that we can give words to any of this. I'm trying to look into it right now as I speak, but I have a feeling I will go away if I attempt to do this. So right now, we're just going to introduce her. Did we give the date? June 29th, 2024 at 8:32:39 p.m. And just give an idea that some of the children out there, some of the beings out there, of course, are more alien looking to us. And this is one such of those beings. One such of those beautiful, beautiful beings. Okay, and the last on the list, we have Koresh. I didn't capture her in very much detail, aside from the eyes, which are just incredible, which is why she made the mix, and we're introducing her now. She came through January 4th, 2025 at 8:49:07 p.m. And yeah, interesting. Very clearly, part of what came through in her transmission is that she is a desert dweller. I have a very strong connection with the desert in this lifetime and many of the lifetimes that I've lived, and many of the connections that come through us through the crystal, notably the reptilian species in any of its form, including the one we just mentioned here now, the tortoise. Uh, yeah. So there's various ways for the beings to connect with me, various codes, let's say, in my DNA that allow them to connect. They make use of those particular junctures, which can be interacted with as portals. And the desert terrain is a very large, very easy way to get through to me. Now, she did come through, you might be able to see this, connected at the eye to a bird being who I get the very strong connection is a what we would call the vulture. And so symbols like this give us additional information. And I, having noted that, will also note that I have various connections in various lifetimes that have come into my awareness thus far to date, in which I do incarnate with a bird. A bird will play a major role and accompany me throughout the life. That's an interesting thing to begin with. But I have some indigenous lifetimes where this often happens. And Koresh, this desert dweller, I also want to say cave dweller. What's that movie? Dune. That's the feeling. You know, have you ever watched the movie Dune? That's the feeling that comes through with Koresh. Uh, that type of a lifetime. I can't remember the ones that actually live in the desert in the caves, but those ones, that's the feeling. Okay, so this has been a brief introduction to some of the children that have transmitted through to us to date, for what purpose they transmit through. I'll leave that up to you to come up with potential ideas on. I have my own, but for now, we'll just take another group, look at them. Let me move out of the way because I know they come all the way down to the bottom there. And just seeing them in a cluster is sometimes nice. I'm going to go ahead and recede here. And either we'll just keep looking at the group photo, or I may just span through these one at a time for you to have one more glimpse of. Mm. Okay, this has been the children. We will be back again soon with the next being.